The Angry Chicken is a production of Amove TV. Bookmark amove.tv for more gaming and esports shows. The Angry Chicken is directly supported by listeners like you via patreon.com/TAC. And if you would like to see a live recording of The Angry Chicken, come on out to CreateCon in Orlando this July. Tickets and info over at createconvention.net.
Everyone, get in here!
Ready for action!
I've got the beast in my sight.
A podcast about Hearthstone, Heroes of Warcraft. This is The Angry Chicken.
Oh, welcome everybody. It's Garrett and Jocelyn here from The Angry Chicken, sitting down with Peter Whalen from the Hearthstone team, and they just announced Rastakhan's Rumble as the third expansion of 2018. Thanks for joining us again, Peter.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
We appreciate you coming back on. I think it's 2 years in a row now.
I think so.
Yeah. So thanks. But I mean, I guess first off, congrats on announcing your third expansion of the year.
Thank you.
And it's Rastakhan's Rumble. In certain ways, it feels like, how did it take this long to get to Trolls? And in other ways, I'm just stoked that we're here, that we made it to Trolls.
I'm so excited about Trolls. Trolls are awesome, and we saw all the cool Trolls in Battle for Azeroth, so it was a perfect fit. It's really good timing. Man, it's one of those things that's been on the table for years that we've been talking about. Let's do Trolls. Trolls are really cool. Yeah. And this was exactly the right time for an expansion that's really centered around World of Warcraft and the stuff that they've done over the years, and also the stuff they've done more recently.
Okay, I'm totally jumping to my World of Warcraft question then.
Great.
Sorry, guys, just bear with me, okay? So, basically, we obviously picked up on the fact that Rastakhan's Rumble seems very tied into World of Warcraft. And so, is this something that is intentional? Is this something you're going to do more of in the future? Is kind of tie Hearthstone stuff into current WoW content?
It's definitely intentional in the sense that we have lots of characters from Battle for Azeroth that are, we have Gonk the Raptor, we have Wansamdu, we've got Rastakhan, Princess Talanji. There's tons of characters from Battle for Azeroth and also from the past of World of Warcraft. You got Shirvallah the Tiger, you got Akali the Rhino. There's a ton of these characters as well. So is it something we'll do more in the future? I think it's going to be a mix and match, right? We do some expansions that are tied into very closely to World of Warcraft. You saw Knights of the Frozen Throne. There's a ton of Warcraft fantasy in there. Next to was Blackrock Mountain. And then Rastakhan's Rumble. They're very, very tightly tied into World of Warcraft. And then you'll have some that are more flights of fancy, things like One Night in Karazhan, which has a very strong basis in World of Warcraft, but then is very much a Hearthstone take on it. And then things that are farther out, like Boomsday Project or Mean Streets of Gadgetzan, are a little bit farther out from World of Warcraft. You can understand how that exists in the world, but it's not directly lifted from it.
I mean, can we go into one of these other booths and grab someone from World of Warcraft? Because I'm still campaigning for Hearthstone's version of Gadgetzan to make it into WoW.
You'd have to talk to them about that.
Just both of you in the same room. Just going to hold you hostage. Speaking of Wansamdi, will he be the best card in the set? Because he should be.
Oh, because Wansamdi's amazing.
Yes.
He's such a cool character in Battle for Azeroth. He's pretty cool. He's the priest Loa, and so he'll tie into some of the stuff that priests are doing. But I think the design's pretty exciting. We'll see it at some point.
Yeah, there seems to be from what little priest cards we've seen, is a little bit of a madness theme, it seems like, going on.
Yeah, there's Wansamdi's this really cool character. He's all about the dead. He's the Loa of the dead, but he's also into dark bargains, which is why you see Surrender to Madness, that there's this very explicit trade-off between I want my minions to be enormous, but I'd also like to have mana to play them with. So you have to make that decision intelligently as you're playing Surrender to Madness. So there's some of the cards that play very much into that Shadow Priest kind of vibe, because Wansamdi's a pretty dark Loa, and so Priest in general in this expansion's more on the dark side.
I dig that. When I saw that card, I was like, "Ooh, I'm excited to see where Priest is going."
Yeah, there's some cool stuff in Priest.
Very cool, very cool. And just out of curiosity, while we're still on Wansamdi, is he going to have a cool, unique line if full Jin and he end up on the board at the same time?
You'll have to wait and see.
Okay,
I'm not sure which of those lines ended up in. We actually tend not to have lines that minions responding to other minions, because it's a little bit harder to figure out what's going on. We tend to have lines that are minions responding to other heroes. Yeah. So, minion responds to hero, so it's unlikely that there's a Wansamdi Vol'jin one.
Gotcha. Was there a lot of like internal debate as to which Loa got assigned to which classes?
Yeah, so much talking about it, man. For rogues, there's several that make sense. There's Shadra, which is the spider one, which is a perfect fit. There's also Grawl, which is the shark one. And that was a little bit weirder, but we really liked it because it pushed them in that piratey direction. We actually didn't have them as pirates before we settled on Grawl as their Loa. But some of our concept artists drew, like, what if rogue trolls in the arena were piratey? And it was so cool that we just had to go with it. It was amazing. So then that's how they ended up with Grawl. But yeah, there were a bunch of them that were, I'm not sure exactly which one's right. There was some that was totally obvious, like Akali the Rhino for warriors. Like, warriors love smashing their heads into things. Rhino's a great fit. Bonsamdi for priests, they're perfect. Gonk the Raptor for druids, perfect fit. And War Druid Lodi for them too, because those two characters go hand in hand in Battle for Azeroth, and then you see them again here, and it worked out really well.
You brought up all of the Loa and the designs for all the classes and stuff, and one of the things that you guys mentioned in your panels was that the spirits and the Loa will work well together, but then the champions are kind of a different style, and so it looks like, from what you guys said, that they're going to be pushing the classes in a couple of different directions. So can you just talk a little bit about the design around that and how you landed on kind of splitting the champions off from the Loa?
Yeah, so that's a pretty big question. So we try to make sure that every time we have a Hearthstone expansion, there's a bunch of things for you to try out. It's not as much fun if all 10 cards are pointing in exactly the same direction. It's also really dangerous because if that deck doesn't work, then there's no cool cards. If that deck works and there's 10 cards pushing in that direction, then it could be insane. So we try to make sure that there's some cards that push in one direction, cards that push in another direction. You've seen Hexlord Malakras as the troll champion that we've revealed. He's the 8-mana 5/5 legendary battlecry. Add a copy of your opening hand to your hand, and that's its own design. That's a cool thing. That's not in the same direction that Jan'alai or Jan'alai's spirit go in. So we try to have a lot of different things for you to experiment with in each of the classes that you see. Even in Rogue, you've seen the Spirit of the Shark. The Spirit's the 0/3 minion, stealth for a turn, and your minions' battle cries and combos trigger twice. And so that pushes you very much in a battle cry and combo direction. You want to put cards in your deck that synergize with that. And then, since that's the Spirit, their legendary Loa also synergizes with that Grawl the Shark. We haven't shown off what that is, but it'll be cool in a deck that has the Spirit. On the other hand, you've got Captain Hooktusk and the Pirates that are the thematic tie-in to Grawl, and they are very much more pirate related. You've seen Cannon Barrage. Captain Hooktusk is a pirate because you've seen that art. Cannon Barrage cares about having pirates, and so that's another thing that Rogue is doing in this expansion. It fires 3 damage at a random enemy and then 3 more damage because each of your pirates helps out for each pirate you control. And so there's several things going on in Rogue, both Cannon Barrage type things and also the Spirit of the Shark type things.
Okay. Well, I find that fascinating. The whole talk about how you don't want to double down too much on one thing, so there's experimentation. Because I did come here prepared to ask you about how you decide which mechanics from previous sets continue to get some love in additional sets, and which ones kind of get cut. For example, say Joust, or even most recently Magnetic. We haven't seen a lot more of those cards, but we've seen a lot of new Discover cards over the history of Hearthstone since it was introduced.
Yep, Russian Lifesteal too. There's some mechanics that we want to do forever, that we want to just have as, this is a part of Hearthstone. Hearthstone's better because this mechanic's always around. There's also mechanics that we love, and I actually think Magnetic's a great mechanic, and it's a lot of fun. I think Echo's a great mechanic too, that I would be happy to have forever, but there's a dangerous thing in increasing the complexity of the game by adding lots and lots and lots of keywords. You just keep adding them and they never go away. That's pretty dangerous. But one of the things that's really nice about Standard and Wild and that split is that we can keep Standard without infinite keywords all of the time. It's also cool because when you have a keyword that you love and it goes away for a while and then we bring it back, that makes it even cooler. So I think you're not going to see any more Magnetic in this expansion, but someday it's the kind of thing that I think was a lot of fun, and it might come back if there's a perfect fit for it.
So Joust is coming back, confirmed.
I mean, we've done variants on Joust in the last couple of years, right? There was the Spell Joust from Kobolds and Catacombs. It didn't say Spell Joust on the card, but it was, reveal a spell from each player's deck. If yours costs more, you get a copy or you get to draw it. That was the Raven, I think, and that was cool. That was a cool card, and that's the kind of thing that we like to bring back when there's opportunities.
Yeah, and now I feel like we probably should have asked ahead of time if you can even speak to this, but because of when we're recording this, we still haven't heard too much about the single player. This won't be going up until after the panel actually goes live, but Oh, good, cool. So we are good. So
Great.
what can you tell us about the new single player for Rastakhan's Rumble?
Yeah, so there is a new single player. It's very much in the style of the dungeon run experience, where you're going to play as Ricard, a new troll challenger in the arena, and he's going to pick his team. And as you pick your team, you get a shrine that goes with it, which is a card that has a powerful build-around effect, a little bit like the spirits, except when it dies, it goes dormant. It doesn't work for a while, and then it comes back to life.
So that's what we're seeing at the Brawl demo, here today. Okay.
Exactly. And so then you'll battle against the other 8 teams, the ones that you didn't pick, in a very dungeon run style thing, and then you'll be the champion of the arena, or you'll be the loser and somebody else will be the champion of the arena. But you'll be the champion of the arena.
So when you talk about a dungeon run style, does that mean that when you're going through and going champion to champion, there will be like a deck building portion after your first battle? Then you'll be
able to choose additional cards to add to it. You'll be able to choose some awesome players to add to your team. And where we had treasures in the past, now you'll get some star players.
Oh, you'll get like allies.
Exactly. And you'll be able, those are minions, of course.
Obviously.
And then you'll be able to have upgrades to your shrine as well as you go through it. And you'll see a lot of that in the panel as well.
That thing upgrades?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
okay,
yeah.
guys, yeah, the shrines are really, really, really powerful. Just be prepared. So I know, like, one of my absolute favorite Hearthstone single-player moments was Puzzle Lab.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I really liked it because it felt like a different way to play Hearthstone in that, like, you knew there was a solution. There, like, the answer was in there.
We promise, guys, even if it doesn't look like it.
Exactly. So I really liked that kind of playstyle in the world of Hearthstone. Is that something that you guys are ever going to potentially consider going back to, or are we looking at probably more dungeon run
There's
things?
nothing that's planned to go back to puzzles, but man, I keep asking them every expansion, please, can we do more puzzles? Puzzles? I love puzzles. So I don't want to rule it out, but we don't have any plans for it right now.
Gotcha. Well, just to, I guess, kind of get a little anecdotal and less Hearthstone specific. I mean, it's been like, it seems like a wild year for Blizzard in general, like almost like a new era with folks like Ben Brode and Mike Morhaime moving on to new projects, new directions in their lives. What is that like, internally at Blizzard?
So, I mean, Mike Morhaime is fantastic. He's been a phenomenal leader for Blizzard for years and years, since I was a kid and loved Blizzard games. So, yeah, he's been an inspiration for a lot of people. And so he's taking a step back and taking a slightly different role at the company now, and J. Allen Brack is going to take over. And so certainly on a day-to-day level, that hasn't really impacted Hearthstone, and I think everyone is excited about the team culture that Mike Morhaime has built for Blizzard, and also the team culture that the Hearthstone team has as well. And so that's a really important legacy that he's left for us, and I think working at Blizzard is amazing, and it's going to continue that way.
Right, that's awesome. And I believe it's out now. I could almost cut this at the end. But how is it with the new game director? We've just heard that Chris Siggety has taken over.
Chris Siggety is the executive producer for Hearthstone.
Oh, executive producer. Okay.
Executive producer for Hearthstone. Yeah, he comes from a long line of Blizzard games. He's worked on tons of stuff, and he's fantastic. He's a great guy to work with.
Yeah, I heard he's pretty hardcore about Hearthstone.
He loves Hearthstone, and he's just an amazing guy to work with. I hadn't had the opportunity much in years past, but he's great. I really have enjoyed it. One of the things we didn't mention was Overkill, which is the new keyword in the expansion. It means that if you do excess damage with your card on your turn, you get a bonus. So it's one of those things that you kind of guess from the name, that if you overkill, if you're flashy, then the crowd will reward you. If you style on your opponents, it's good.
Yeah, I saw the keyword. I played other card games. The first thing I thought of was like, oh, is Trample coming to Hearthstone? And it's like, oh no, this is way cooler. And
it's actually really different. It plays out super different. It's less about, I'm going to have this giant minion and you can't stop it. It's more about trying to figure out the right way to trade that's different than how you normally trade. Right? Normally you want, this is the perfect trade. It's totally efficient. I do 2 damage to the 2 health minion. I didn't waste anything. You want to waste damage here. You want to do more than you need to. Maybe not too much more than you need to, but at least more. Like, you'll get Baited Arrow, which is the 5-mana hunter spell. It's deal 3 damage. If you overkill, you get a 5/5. You want that 5/5. For 5 mana, deal 3 damage, it's not that great. But if you get a 5/5 too, that's fantastic. So you actually trade in different ways than you would have otherwise. You find different targets for it than you might have in the past. And it's one of those mechanics that's simple to explain, and you kind of get it from the name, but it has strategic implications, and that's great. That's exactly the kind of thing that we want, is easy to learn, but hard to master.
Yeah. I don't know how much you listen, but we theory craft a lot about different mechanics and things we'd like to see in Hearthstone. I don't think we've ever come to anything close that was like Overkill. So once it was debuted, I was like, that's cool. I want to play with that.
We were really excited when we found it in design and got to play with it a bunch. It's a really cool mechanic. I really enjoy it. And I'm just excited about Rastakhan's Rumble. I think the vibe is really cool. Seeing all these characters in Battle for Azeroth, seeing them in Hearthstone, and being able to pick your team. All of the teams feel so different, but also so unified within them is really cool. Like which team do you want to root for, and how is that going to manifest itself in your gameplay? Is a lot of fun.
Great. Well, I think that's pretty much going to do it for us then. So thank you so much for joining us, Peter.
Thank you.
So, hey, everybody. We're at BlizzCon right now, hanging out in a hotel room, which is drinking bourbon. Nothing weird is happening here. And so we're hot off the heels of our interview with Peter Whalen, which I don't think we've decided if that's going to be first or, we'll probably just run it at first. So
we'll run it first, yes.
You probably just saw us talk to Peter Whalen. And he's a fun guy. I love talking to Peter.
He is probably the most enthusiastic member of the Hearthstone team. Like, he always just seems like he is living his best life in a Hearthstone world and is super stoked about it.
Yeah, he's always very into whatever it is they're working on.
I don't even know where he finds all the enthusiasm. It's like he just loves everything all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, but BlizzCon's kind of winding down. We're doing this before we're going to go back and watch like the HGC finals, or at least part of it. We're missing some of it right now so that we can talk to you, fine folks at home. Or maybe you went to BlizzCon and you're like, oh, damn, they did it at Anger Chicken. So what happened was this year, there's no guild hall.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we didn't have our normal recording space, so we weren't able to actually do our BlizzCon episode live, but still wanted to put something together for you guys because we got a new expansion announcement, so that's always big news. So, I mean, we got to talk this through.
Yeah. So I guess before we get into Hearthstone specific, we knew it was going to be a quieter BlizzCon year. So, with that in mind, like, I feel like if you were like Diablo 4 confirmed, Illuminati, tinfoil hat, rubber pants, it was going to, you probably walked away disappointed, but I feel like coming into this, most of were like, yeah, it's it's just it's a normal year at Blizzard.
Yeah, I feel like they did kind of confirm Diablo 4 in the blog post that they put up a few weeks ago, basically saying temper expectations, the thing that you want is coming, but we're not ready to actually announce it. So it was like an announcement of a non-announcement, basically. So I feel like we actually did get confirmation that they are working on these larger PC products in the Diablo world. And I think what they did offer us for Diablo is actually a lot better than people are giving it credit for. I think they came in wanting something for PC or possibly even console, and getting something for mobile for the hardcore Diablo crowd. I think if anything, they announced it in the wrong place. It maybe shouldn't have been a BlizzCon announcement, because that's just not the crowd that we have here. But I think the actual idea of Diablo in a way that is actually a dungeon crawler coming to mobile is really interesting to players like me who are not into the Diablo franchise. Otherwise, I've played through Diablo 3, but that's it. And I play basically the story content, get my character to max, which usually is just playing through the story content, and then I move on from Diablo. So this is a really interesting piece of content for me that might actually get me more invested in the Diablo franchise. So I think that they are aiming to take the Diablo world to a wider audience, and I don't think that's a bad thing.
I don't think so either. And as someone who is into Diablo, I'm not like I have to play every season type of player. I don't play hardcore, but I have 4 max level characters, and I have played in multiple seasons. I enjoy Diablo quite a bit. I think it's fine. I think it's a smart move. I'm with you. I don't necessarily think it was a BlizzCon announcement. To me, it seemed more like a PAX thing. Like Hearthstone was announced at PAX. And I thought like at the time that worked. We now know that Hearthstone has gone on to be insanely huge runaway success. But at the time, it seemed like the smallest scale announcement to ever come out of Blizzard. It was like, yeah, we're kind of thinking maybe we're going to try this. What do you guys think? Well, except it was Bro. So it was like, hey, everybody, we're here to talk about Hearthstone. And I'm going to shoutcast a thing. And this is a bad Ben Brode impression. You get the idea.
It's terrible, but we know what you mean.
We got to see Ben.
We did get to see Ben. That was really great.
We were lucky, guys. We got to have lunch with second dinner, like all of them, except Jamaro. Jamaro couldn't come. Unfortunately, yeah. But they're doing fine. We learned nothing.
Yeah, don't ask us. Don't tweet us. Don't add us. We don't know anything.
We didn't learn anything new. We just confirmed that Ben Brode and crew are some of the kindest people in the world.
Yes, they are still awesome.
And they have very good choice in Korean barbecue restaurants to go eat at.
So good. So much meat.
I still smell it. I still smell it, Jocelyn. I wore this jacket that day.
So that makes more sense. I was like, did you get meat up your nose or something by accident?
No, I'm just like, brisket. It's so good.
Oh, man. But other than Diablo, in terms of announcements, I think a lot of the stuff that we saw at the show this weekend was basically to be expected. I feel like this was a to be expected BlizzCon. We got a new hero out of Overwatch. We got a new hero out of Heroes of the Storm. We got an expansion announcement out of Hearthstone. And then we got information about 8.2 and what's coming kind of just before that. So 8.15 and 8.2 from the World of Warcraft team. So it was a lot of what we kind of expected to get out of the teams with kind of the content cycles that they seem to be on.
And we've had BlizzCons like this in the past. So I think overall, like, I still think this was a strong BlizzCon. It's just, you can't have a new IP announced. Not every year can be Overwatch year. Not every year can be a World of Warcraft expansion announcement. And that's the year we find ourselves in. And I thought it was fine. I've enjoyed the panels. I'm stoked for Warcraft 3 Reforged.
Yeah, I felt like that was kind of the most interesting stuff that I got out of this BlizzCon was the idea of Warcraft 3 Reforged, because that's a game I never played through. I watched a playthrough from Husky when he stopped doing StarCraft content and then started doing these Let's Plays before he stopped making YouTube videos.
Hey, Husky, I know you're not watching this, but could you go back to making content, dude?
We love it.
You make good stuff.
But yeah, so I watched his whole Warcraft 3 playthrough, and I just to kind of see the game, experience the lore, all that kind of stuff, and I really enjoyed it. But I didn't take the time to actually play through it myself. So I feel with a remastered or a reforged version that it's something that I'll probably sink my teeth into, and I'm really excited about that. And I think a lot of the most interesting panels for me had to do with WoW Classic, which was something we knew, like, it had been announced last year, so it wasn't totally out of the blue. But we got more information because they basically, other than the patch number, hadn't told us anything heading into this week. So
yeah. I mean, we knew Ajara was coming, right? Like, we knew that was going to happen.
That was the big Warcraft thing, right? Is that I feel like they've been doing a pretty good job of telling the story, which means we've been doing a pretty good job of predicting the story. So there wasn't anything in the Warcraft panel that was really that surprising. But I think that might be a good thing. If they just took a weird left turn and were like, "Whoa, didn't see that coming, did you?" I'd be like, "No, because that's real dumb."
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with meeting expectations.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
That's very much what this BlizzCon felt like, was just meets expectations.
Yeah. It's fine. It's good. It's just a normal year for Blizzard, and I say that lightly because Mike Morhaime stepped down, like the founding members of Team 5 that at least that we're aware of that are public or have moved on to a new company. But all in all, it's just kind of like a check-in. It's like, hey, everybody, here's what we're doing. Take a look. But there's some really good panels this year. If you haven't watched the WoW Classic one, we caught a little bit of it, and it was wildly entertaining. I can't wait to actually have a moment to watch the whole thing. But let's get to the subject of the hour, which is Rastakhan's Rumble, Hearthstone's third and final expansion for 2018. And yeah, I mean, it's another expansion. We were on the show saying we're pretty sure we were just going to get an expansion announcement, and that was about it. And that is about it. But nothing wrong with that. 135 new cards. We're getting one new keyword. It is called Overkill.
Yeah, and we didn't get a chance to really talk about this with Peter, but I think Overkill is a really interesting mechanic. It's something we haven't really seen before, and I think I liked what he said about the idea of trade-offs. But it also kind of takes this potentially feel bad moment where you've got, say, a 4 attack minion and a 2 or 3 health minion, and you're attacking in and you feel like you're wasting that damage. It's like now there's going to be something in Hearthstone for, I believe, all the classes are going to have some sort of overkill mechanic. So it takes those potentially feel bad moments and turns them into something potentially really interesting and really powerful. So it's almost like a problem that you didn't really know you had, but now you've seen the solution and you're like, oh my God, that's genius. Like that seems really, really compelling to me.
Yeah, like I said to Peter in an interview, we've bounced around a lot of ideas for mechanics that could be in the game, and I don't think we've ever come close to something like Overkill. But I do like it, and it's still durability based, so you're not forced to burn it all if you don't want to. If you don't want to take more damage, that is on you. That's your decision to make. I love mechanics like that in card games. So, but yeah, let's I guess start taking a look at the card. I mean, I guess overall, I know we talked a lot off of microphone this week, and so you as someone who has been rating a lot, you seem like you're a little like, I'm a little over trolls. I've had enough trolls.
It's not necessarily so much that I've had enough of trolls, because I am excited about a troll-based Hearthstone expansion. I think this is great. I think the thing that kind of burnt me out a little bit was obviously we saw the leak ahead of time that turned out to be true. So we know the expansion name is Rastakhan's Rumble. And I was like, well, because I'm sure I'm not necessarily a unique case, but definitely in the vast minority of players, because I do rate at a heroic level in World of Warcraft. The expansion right now is based around the Zandalari trolls, and I also play a heck of a lot of Hearthstone.
And you're Horde side.
And I'm Horde side, yeah.
There is another faction, and their expansion is not really based around the Zandalari trolls.
No, not at all, not at all.
I know you'd like to forget or pretend the alliance doesn't exist, or that they only exist for you to murder them.
Exactly. They only exist in war mode.
Yeah. See, I guess I've really enjoyed all the troll stuff, and I'm not reading as much as you, so I'm pretty stoked about all this troll stuff coming to Hearthstone. And I also love that there's a bit of a focus on Gurubashi Arena, and I have like nostalgia in Vanilla about just coming across it, being like, what the hell is this place? Oh, there's a chest, and then being murdered by people.
Yeah, see, that never happened to me. So the fact that you're like, oh, it's the Gurubashi Arena, I'm like, there's never anybody there. Nothing happens there.
Especially back in the day, Jocelyn.
Okay. So how do you feel about WoW Classic?
Let me tell you about WoW Classic, Jocelyn. Do I have the product for you? Yeah.
But yeah, so I feel like I am in this like vast minority of players. Like you mentioned, I hadn't even thought about the fact that I am Horde side, so I've played through all of this troll stuff. But when the leak came out and Rastakhan was involved, I was kind of like, oh man, like I would enjoy more troll content, but did we have to pull straight from BFA, because I'm a little bit burnt out on Warcraft right now. So the idea that they were taking WoW characters from a current WoW expansion and putting them into the Hearthstone expansion, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know how this is going to go. But I am excited to see what they're doing with the Loa and that idea, because I think that that's really cool that each class has this Loa feel, because on Horde side, when you're playing through in World of Warcraft, you meet all of these Loa as you're moving through the Zandalari troll area, and they buff you in different ways, and like they give you different blessings. So I feel like the idea of the Loa has translated quite well into what they've shown us of Hearthstone. And I'm excited to see more of that. It was more so just when they were like flashing everything up on the screen. It's like all the Loa that, from BFA. And then on top of that, you had like Rastakhan they talked about, obviously, but then Princess Talanji and then War Druid Lodi. Like there were just so many characters that we just met for the first time in World of Warcraft that now are making an appearance in Hearthstone. And that was a little weird for me. I'm not going to lie.
That's fair. I'm really on a troll kick. I'm digging trolls. World of Warcraft has reminded me how much I enjoy them. So I'm down. And also I have two reasons. I have two reasons why it's just like a fact that it's good. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Are ready? All right.
I'm ready.
1, Rastakhan is not another paladin hero.
True.
And 2, more Bwan Samdi.
Yeah, you can never get enough of Bwan Samdi. He is an exceptional character, and unfortunately we didn't actually get to see him on the show floor. We don't know what he does, we don't know what his powers are, but we did, when talking to Peter, find out that they're leaning more into the shadow version of Priest, which is very cool. And the idea, and I think this might be another like little like tick from WoW, but when they revealed Surrender to Madness, I'm like, that's a talent, too much WoW in my Hearthstone, stop now. but it seems really cool that they are embracing some of these more shadowy, damagey side to Priest instead of this constant healing focus. So I mean, we've had shadow form in the game since the very beginning, and
Right.
it never caught on. It's never been useful. So as they reveal more and more priest cards, it's going to be very, very interesting to see if we get a full kind of version of Shadow Priest in Hearthstone. I almost said in World of Warcraft. The lines are blurring, folks.
Yeah, it is. But I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. I was, seeing Surrender to Madness, like that really excited me because I enjoy Shadow Priests. Like it's a whole like theming around priests in Warcraft that I love. So I'm all for that. And also we've been talking a lot lately about the classic set, and is there a world where instead of just slowly getting rid of it and making it less important, could we add new cards, that kind of stuff? And so when I see things like, is it Surrender or Succumb? It's Surrender to Madness, right?
Surrender,
right? I don't know why I keep thinking like Succumb to Madness. When I see that kind of stuff, my brain also kind of goes there. I'm like, yeah, there's still a lot of well-known Warcraft things for each class that we haven't even begun to touch on yet. And I'm not saying that like they should save those and make it for the new classic set. But when we think of like, well, what would Mage look like without Fireball? When I really think about it, there's probably plenty of more things that are very much in the Mage wheelhouse that we have to play with.
Yeah, and I mean, the stuff that we did see about Mage, speaking of what they'd be like without Fireball, I'm sure Fireball is going to go in like all the Mage decks. But what we did see is a very fire-based Loa, a very fire-based set. We saw the what was it called? The Pyromancer. Pyromaniac.
The 3-mana 3/4.
Yeah. So it does seem like they're leaning into a fiery type mage, and the idea of interacting with the mage hero power and all that kind of stuff. I think that there's a lot of space, or a lot more design space than we realize when it comes to if they were to replace the classic set. I think that there's a lot of stuff that they could put in there that would still be useful and true to the class without having to be straight up Frostbolt, Fireball.
I'm glad you bring up Pyromaniac because we were talking with Peter about not coming back to past mechanics, and we didn't mention Inspire, but here is another way to interact with a hero power directly through a card effect
without the keyword.
It doesn't have to have Inspire on it. And also this wouldn't work for Inspire because Inspire is like anytime you use your hero power, and this is a very specific
when you do a thing with your hero power.
When you kill something with your hero power. And I like that.
Which, I mean, that's going to have some really interesting potential synergies with Frostless Jaina while these are still in the same standard year too. And I mean, obviously always in wild, but the idea of, like you want to use your hero power to kill a minion as Frostless Jaina. Now you want to do the same thing when you've got Pyromaniac on board. There could be some really cool potential, ping mage maybe becomes a thing.
I mean, it does feel a little win more to me. Like I feel like if you're drawing cards and making water elementals, it's like you didn't need to draw that card.
Yeah,
you're making water elementals. Things are going well for you. But
but in a deck where you have like, I'm thinking kind of like a big spell mage kind of thing where you want a lot of minions, you want to draw cards, you have spells like Blizzard that kind of soften up the board, then having an additional value to your ping is probably something that would find a place in that deck.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
But we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves because I definitely jumped into talking about cards and I didn't mean to because there's I mean, right now if you're I guess it'll be too late now. But if you're listening to the sound of my voice, don't forget to log into Hearthstone because there's some freebies right now.
Oh yeah, I should probably do that.
You totally should. Yeah, we'll take a minute and log into Hearthstone.
After this, we're gonna take a break.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Is that a jingle? Is that a Canadian jingle?
Yes.
I've never heard it.
Oh my god.
Tripping over shit. Tripping over shit. Tripping over shit. Cause I'm tripping over shit. Shit. Where's my phone? Shit. Damn it. Phone. Shit. Damn phone. Where are you?
I am leaving all of this in the episode.
Welcome back, everyone. I found my phone and more bourbon. So this is. I want to go back and listen to this episode and see if we actually become drunk during it. It'd be fun.
But speaking of logging in to get some freebies, they did release the fact that we're going to get a lot of cool stuff actually with this expansion. And this is something that we've talked about a lot with just the idea of the cost of Hearthstone and with so many different legendaries and things, just being able to build decks and try everything out. So we're actually going to be getting a legendary Loa specifically. So the Loa are minions. And actually, I thought that the challengers, like the champions, were hero cards. Only one of them is a hero card. The rest of them are minions. So you'll be getting one Loa and then 2 spirits from that matching class. So you'll have that Loa spirit synergy going right away for free.
Okay, so it's like a little Cthulhu.
Yeah, it's kind of, that's a good way to think about it.
It's
yeah,
in my
it's
head
very
recently
Cthulhu-y.
because it came up on the World of Podcast panel that we did the night before
okay.
BlizzCon,
Yes.
and we were talking. Someone someone asked what we thought the best like kind of launch of expansion freebie we got was, and pretty much the whole panel we were unanimous that it was Cthulhu.
So the difference here will be that everyone will get a different Loa. So it's not
Yeah.
a set, like not everybody gets one zombie.
Yeah, so there's still
There's still some variety there.
There's also still risk because
Yes.
like all Loa, I'm sure
obviously.
will not be created equal. Same way that not all Death Knights were created equal. I got Scourge Lord Garrosh, and I was like, oh, this is lame. And you and Dills were like, oh, he's not that bad. And it's like, no,
I think I got Uther. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But Uther's at least kinda
Uther
cool.
Uther was fun, and he was very much a build around, play around type card, but he was not like Frostlich, Jaina, or Gul'dan. He wasn't meta defining. Or Rexxar, yeah. Rexxar after the fix.
Hey, Rexxar's not. He's out next rotation, right?
Yeah, all the Death
thank
Knights
God.
are rotating in
Thank
April.
God. I'm done
Yeah.
with Rexxar.
Aw,
I'm done.
I love Rexxar.
I love him too. I'm just ready for him. And
Ready for him to retire.
Seth especially.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
but you can't blame Kel'Seth on Rexxar. But
They're from the same expansion, so
Yeah. But yeah, so other than the legendary Loa card that you'll be getting and your 2 spirits, then there's also going to be 6 card packs up for grabs. So they're giving us a nice kind of bump at the beginning of the expansion of free stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming out of this year, 2018 of Hearthstone, thinking, yeah, good job. You upped the freebies. I think they've done a good job upping the freebies, and yeah, of course I want more. Who doesn't want more free stuff?
Obviously.
But I think they've been doing an okay job. I like it. Definitely more than usual. So Shirvala, the Loa that we did see, I don't think Shirvala's that great.
Shirvala is really interesting because we've seen mechanics like this before that have involved the number of spells that you cast, like Praise Yogg, and we haven't seen...
I'm just
I
scowling.
really hope that the camera picked up that scowl because it was hardcore. But yeah, so this actually interacts with the amount of mana that you've spent on your spells. So you can kind of chunk down the cost of this card a lot faster than just straight up counting the number of spells you played. So this doesn't have to go in a straight up like spell paladin deck. And as far as I know, since the base cost of this card is 25, you could even take a look at maybe throwing it into an odd paladin type mix. I don't know if it would work there, but I mean, odd and even is something that we really have to take into account for the next couple of expansions.
That's the only place where I think I'm like, oh, okay, maybe this card is good. Because I see like Divine Shield, Rush, Lifesteal. I'm like, why is this card 25 mana? Why do I have to build around it to cheat it out? Because that's not that great. However, even Paladin has just made a big resurgence in the meta, and huge swingy lifesteal turns.
Well, this would be odd, not even, because 25 is an odd cost card.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. No, but it's not that I think it's going to go an even. Just that I am respecting big swingy lifesteal turns.
Oh, yes, I see. Yeah.
Because of the resurgence of even Paladin.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing. Like the fact that this is rushing as well means basically you could end up with this costing, if you play it late game, just a couple mana, and then all of a sudden it's a heal for 7 and a kill something and survive and leave a 7/5 behind. So
yeah, and if it's not in an even or an odd deck, you might be multiplying your healing effects.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily know how this is going to interact with the spirit that the paladin is going to get, because all we've seen is the Loa, and the Loa and the spirits will work together. So there could be something in the paladin spirit that they're going to be trying to do that will make this card better and better. Like there's maybe potentially even some kind of buff paladin deck that this goes into, because they're playing a lot of spells to buff up their minions, and we've seen like there's a lot of kind of legendary cards that maybe a control type paladin can make use of. So yeah, I think it's interesting and compelling. And I mean, 25 feels a little bit high, but 25 feels high when I haven't had a chance to play with it. And I would rather they start high and then, month or two past expansion release go, you know what, this isn't getting played, this isn't, or when it is getting played, it's not performing the way that we want it to, let's drop it to 20. That's going to feel a whole lot better than, you know, like, let's take the 20 cost and bump it up to 25. And I know they've never really buffed cards like that.
It's like you could feel my
I know.
reaction
Oh, I know.
coming.
Yeah, it's like we've been podcasting together for 5 years or something. But yeah, so I know we've never seen them buff cards, but this kind of leaves room for that movement if they need it. So I think better to start in a conservative direction and then move to be a little bit easier to play than try to take something away. But again, they take things away all the time. Rip giggling.
No, not Rip giggling. Rest in the fiery pits of hell, you boring card that homogenized the meta. I didn't hate it that much, actually.
I know.
It's just fun. Yeah, I don't necessarily have to go card by card. Like Salt Rays, like it kind of, that's overkill. We talked about overkill.
Yeah, and so this is overkill in a weapon, and we don't know what overkill is going to be in terms of like if there could be, or I guess we have a spell overkill from Hunter. The baited arrow is deal 3 damage, and then overkill gain the 5/5 Devil Sword for
I have
Hunter.
already forgotten about this card. Okay, yeah, that's really rad.
So I feel like there's interesting design space, and I like that they haven't tied it to one specific thing. It's not all spells. It's not. I mean, we might even see something like a Battlecry minion that deals damage like Fire Plume Phoenix, but with an overkill tag. So like Battlecry deal 3 damage, overkill summon a copy of this minion or something.
Yeah. The way I look at baited arrow, it's like deal 2 damage if it kills your target. Summon a 5/5 Devil Sword. Like I would play that card.
It seems pretty good. And I mean, especially with the whole, I mean, we've seen how powerful spawned 5/5s can be just with the resurgence of egg stuff, right? Like
Egg stuff.
Well, 'cause I was going to say egg hunter and like death rattle hunter, but realistically, we're going to be talking about this on the next show. The idea of the breakfast paladin, the meat wagon and eggs.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna
egg things are a thing.
I'm gonna make some new decks before I get on the plane to fly home, and I will be renaming all of my egg decks egg stuff.
I love it. But yeah, so I mean, spawned 5/5s when you're also doing something else and impacting the board, like you're basically removing an opponent's minion and putting a 5/5 on board. I mean, for 4 mana, they deal 3 damage and put a 3/3 on board, and even flanking strike sees a lot of play and is really powerful. So for 1 more mana, you get two more of stats. Seems like it's going to be a pretty good card.
Yeah. So I want to jump ahead and talk. Like, can we please talk about Spirit of the Shark?
Absolutely.
So this is the Spirit for Rogue. It's a 4 mana 0/3. They confirm all of them would be 4/0/3s.
They
Or 4 or under.
They confirmed that they would all be that Spirit of the Shark was the most expensive.
Okay, so 4 mana or
mana
under,
is the most,
and they're all 0/3s.
They're 0/3s, and they all stealth for 1 turn. So this way you can get off combos with them without them being unkillable.
You know, this tangent. This almost makes me want them to do some type of formatting or design language for the title of cards. Like, I feel like Spirit should be a different color, and we don't need the stealth for 1 turn. Like, we just know that all
if it's a
spirits
spirit, it
stealth
does
for 1
this
turn.
thing.
And if you hover over the card, it tells you it like a keyword.
Yeah.
Sorry, just small tangent.
No, it's a good tangent because I think, that would be great. And I mean, we're not getting to magic levels of text on cards,
No.
but they are starting to seem a little bit crowded. So, I mean, we've got stealth for 1 turn, your minions, battle cries, and combos trigger twice. And I think this is really interesting too, because I love that they're combining battle cries and combos together. Like, that's a really interesting rogue mechanic, I think, because I mean, it won't matter for things like Vile Spine Slayer, which is extraordinarily powerful for its effect. Like, that can't trigger twice. Like,
right.
that would be insane. So, but then things like Cold Blood could.
Yeah. You know, I've been playing a lot of Magic the Gathering Arena, and I have not played Magic in about a year. So Arena's gotten me back in and reminded me how much I like that game. And I enjoy the individual card complexity. There are definitely cards that go way too far. And I'm like, all right, I've been staring at this card for 5 minutes, and I'm still not sure how it works. Like that I don't need Hearthstone to get to that point. And we've talked. We were sad about the cancellation of tournament mode and whatnot. And I think you and I were both going into BlizzCon being like, it's just going to be an expansion. It's not that big of a deal. But if they're not adding new game formats, I am excited to see the increased complexity in individual cards. And when Spirit of the Shark came up, my first thought was, holy crap, that's a really good card. But also was, yay, a little extra complexity, because there's three bolded keywords in the body text of this card. And that excites me. Also, freaking, that's a really good effect for a rogue.
It really is. And I mean, we've seen how powerful multiple battle cries have been with Bran. So I think that, this could be a really interesting deck for rogue that isn't necessarily going to be the same as the pirate build. So again, this comes down to something we touched on in the interview with Peter, is the idea that there's going to be multiple ways to play each class. And I liked what he said. I found it kind of interesting. As much as we've said we wish that they would kind of double down on mechanics in some cases, or give us more cards. Like we wanted more magnetic. We wanted, maybe things, keywords, mechanics would work better if they gave us more of them. But I did kind of like his answer where he was like, if we only go in one direction, then there's always going to be a chance that it's the wrong direction and it's weak or too powerful. And either way, that's not good for the design of the game. So I really liked that answer.
I do too. I feel like we've been at odds with a lot of the messaging from the team lately. And when he said that, I'm like, man, I think that's a healthy core value for the design of this game. And also One Direction confirmed as the closing band for BlizzCon 2019. Better than Train. Hashtag. While we're on spirits, let's just talk about Spirit of the Bat real fast, because we did get to see the Warlock Spirit, and this is going to cost 2 mana, have 0 attack, 3 health, stealth for 1 turn. I should just stop saying that for spirits. And after a friendly minion dies, give a minion in your hand +1/+1. So a little Mean Streets of Gadgets Annie for the God, what were they even called? I don't remember anymore.
The Grimy Goons.
Grimy Goons. Yeah, it didn't really take off. Paladin had it for a little bit. We were kind of messing around with it, but it certainly was not the dominant. Were we calling them guilds? I don't remember. They were like gangs.
Yeah, gangs, factions, guilds.
It wasn't the dominant gang of Mean Streets by any means, but I think it was really cool. We've been talking a lot about wanting to see a return of less popular effects, and I'm glad to see that here. I don't know how good it's going to be. This seems a little more conservative to me compared to Spirit of the Shark.
It does, and I think it has to be, because this feels like something that could just run away with games.
Zoo.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's 2 mana. That's the first place my brain goes.
Yeah, and it goes so well with the Loa Hyreek, because he is an 8 mana 1/1, which sounds absolutely awful, obviously. But you fill your board. So this doesn't even say, like, there's no condition on how many of these things that you're going to actually summon. Like, you just, for every empty space on your board, you're going to get a Hyreek, and it will be copies of the minion. So if you've buffed up your hand, and Zoo has ways to buff up their hand right now outside of what we're going to see in this set. So outside of Spirit of the Bat, and I'm sure that we're probably going to get 1, maybe 2 more hand buffy type cards that are going to work with the Spirit and work with the Loa. So I don't think it's going to be out of the realm of possibility to get your Hyreek up to like even 7/7 or 8/8. Like, I feel like that's going to be very doable. And then you're going to have a whole board full of 8/8s. And if you aren't another Warlock with Twisting Nether or a Paladin with Equality Consecrate, like, how do you even deal with a board full of 8/8s?
Yeah, and then God help you if you you just have a board full of Hyreeks and you have another Spirit of the Bat in your hand, and you just start trading in all your Hyreeks, even if you don't get to buff it. It can be an engine for your Spirit of the Bat. Granted, again, 8 mana. I'm getting away with it a little bit, but yeah, it's an interesting thought if your perfect plan doesn't play out. And also, this is the only, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only example we've seen of being able to see both the Spirit and the Loa coming out of BlizzCon.
Correct, yeah. So hopefully we'll get more of that soon. They gave us an expansion release date, so we know that's coming December 4th, but we don't have a I guess, card release schedule out of them yet. As far as I know, we are recording while the single player content panel is happening. I don't know if they'll give us any more tidbits of information. It seems like a weird place to give us a card release schedule, but you never know. You never know.
You never know with BlizzCon.
Yeah.
Sometimes they just mix things together because they only have so many panel slots that they can fit things into.
Exactly.
But the last thing I want to say about Harik is that the biggest way that Warlocks are buffing their minions in hand right now is based on it being the leftmost minion. And so I think it being 8 mana is a good thing in that way. It means it's going to stick around in your hand. It is very likely that Harik is going to be the leftmost minion in your hand.
That's a really good point, and something I hadn't actually thought of is I said this on the show when they introduced it. I love that they're playing around with like hand positioning, even though we can't rearrange our hand. And now that they've given us spells like that, I can see why they won't let us rearrange our hands. But yeah, I think that's a really good point, is that because this is so expensive, it's probably going to stick around for a while. And after you draw it, especially if you're playing a zoo type deck, that's going to be something where you're going to be playing out the majority of your hand as you get it. So you play out the stuff on the left side, Harik slowly moves over, and then you just buff the crap out of him, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. We talked a little bit about Surrender to Madness, but we didn't really say what the card was.
We didn't.
It's a 3-mana epic spell for priests, and it reads, destroy 3 of your mana crystals, give all minions in your deck +2/+2. What is even happening with priests in this expansion? This
is very, very, very much along the lines of the talent in World of Warcraft, where basically what Surrender to Madness was this huge trade-off between your normal void form and death. So you would hit the Surrender to Madness button, and as long as you could maintain your void form, then you were still alive. But the second you fell out of it, your character would die. So that was the trade-off, is you got this huge boost in power to the point that it actually created a problem for Mythic raiding, because Mythic raiders were very much into the Shadow Priest, and they would literally pop it at the beginning of the fight, and they would do so much damage when they surrendered to Madness that then they would just die a minute into the fight, and they had the highest DPS.
And it was worth it.
Yeah, it was working. Yeah, it was working. So Surrender to Madness, this seems like it's very Keleseth-like, but without a build around. But it does have that trade-off of you lose 3 mana crystals.
Yeah, but also you can put 2 of these in your deck as opposed to 1 Keleseth, so it makes it much more consistent in terms of drawing it. Even though I'm fairly certain I almost always draw my Keleseth in my Zoo deck.
Everyone does.
Yeah, except you.
Except me.
So I don't know how you necessarily pronounce this, but so we're not talking about every card, but there's 3 more cards we wanted to make sure and highlight. Immortal Prelate?
I guess so.
Prelate,
but
Prelate almost sounds more like a weird, fantasy thing. Like,
like a total made up word.
Every time one of these things comes up, someone's like, "Dude, it's like in these 3 classic novels. How have you never read it?" And I just feel dumb.
Well, no, but for me, at least, who is very well read.
The Canadian over here.
Is I read things in my head, and I would totally read this as prelate, but if I had never heard it out loud, like sometimes I just don't make those connections, and I have these weird pronunciations because you're reading a book. It's all in your head. Like, you know what the word means. You don't need to.
I still say Mediv instead of Mediv. Like, I have to try. I have to think about it in my head. And it's so hard. Anyway, Immortal Prelate is how we're going to choose to pronounce it for now. Feel free to tweet at us. Do me a favor. Check to make sure that 27 other people haven't also tweeted at us. Please and thank you. Anyways, it's a 2-mana 1/3. It's an epic minion for paladins, and it has a death rattle that reads, shuffle this into your deck. It keeps any enchantments. So Jocelyn, they said that spirits and Loas were going to be within the same theme, that kind of work with each other in an obvious fashion. This is neither a spirit nor a Loa, yet makes a lot of sense looking at what's going. Actually, wait, never mind. I'm thinking of Warlock. Never mind. This doesn't make any sense.
Oh, no. I think it still does make sense, because I think that this Immortal pairs very well with the Loa that we did have revealed, which is Shirvala, because of the spell casting. Exactly.
Yep.
So one thing that they did say is that you do have to be careful with what you cast, because if, for instance, this gets equality'd, then that counts as an enchantment. So basically, when this minion dies. Yes.
Oh my, you're right. Actually, yeah, you're right. I've never thought of it that way.
It's basically anything that changes this minion, it will like save that state.
That's brilliant. What a cool choice of words, because we've had other paladin cards that's like keeps any enchantments you cast on this or anything cast on this
or
minion.
any spells cast on this minion or targeting this minion. It's some wording along those lines.
Right, but this isn't that. It's like any enchantment
anything
that
happens to this. Yeah.
Also, it like help you. God help you if you're against another paladin that's running Consecrate. It's not up to you.
Yes. I'm not 100% sure if Consecrate would be the same, because Consecrate damages your minions.
I'm
as
not
opposed
Consecrate.
to,
I meant
Oh,
equality.
you meant equality. Okay.
Hey, guys, the bourbon's catching up with me.
Because I was going to say, I'm like, that's straight up minion damage. And I don't think that this would save its minion damage, because then it would just show up in your hand and die. Possibly get overkilled. Maybe this is a buff for your
Consecrate
opponent.
definitely does not count.
Okay.
I've said the wrong. Equality and Consecrate are clearly linked in my mind.
Obviously.
I think I might also keep Wild Pyromancer.
But yeah, so this is really interesting because it's basically a minion version of Kingsbane. So Rogue has had this for a few expansions now, where they have this weapon that goes back into their deck and keeps all the buffs that you put on it. So it's interesting to see it in another class. And I think that this is the first example that we have of a minion that isn't the Spirit or the Loa, but that supports that kind of deck style. So like I say, I think we're going to have probably 4 cards, I would say, that are straight up meant to play in a Spirit Loa deck, and then we'll have some support for the champion decks, which will be different mechanics, different style of play. So I think the Immortal is really interesting, and 2 mana 1/3. I mean, they're getting away from 1 mana 1/3, so yay. But yeah, I think there might be some sort of cool buff paladin spellcaster type deck.
It's well statted for the cost, for the direction this is clearly heading.
Well, you don't want the base to be too strong when the point is to buff the base, right? So
Exactly.
you want it to live. You want the ability to actually cast spells on it and do things to it without it dying, but you don't want it to be too powerful to the point that you don't even need to buff it and it's still playable, right?
Yep. Let's also talk Void Contract. This is an 8 mana epic warlock spell, so you could put 2 of these in your deck if you wanted. And it destroys half of each player's deck.
So yeah, some sort of like weird hybrid between the end result of Rin with the deck destroying and also like you don't have to jump through all the hoops that you do with Rin. Like Rin has to go on the play area. She has to be played.
The board.
The board. Thank you.
So I'm not.
The bourbon's kicking in.
Hey, cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
And you have to drink after you cheers.
That's true. I do. Guys, this is going to be bad.
Cheers, listeners at home.
So good.
It's a good burn. It's a good burn.
That's the good burn.
It's like working out, except it's way easier.
I would so rather do this than work out.
Anyways, back to Void Contract.
Yes.
Yeah, no, Void,
So Rin has to hit the board, has to not be silenced, and then she gives you your contracts, and you have to play 5 of those, I think, or 4 of those. And, you know, you're summoning demons the whole time, but they're very expensive. And then finally you get Anzari the Devourer and get to play him, but he's 10 mana. And, you know, there's so many things.
Destroying your opponent's entire deck is definitely way better than destroying half of their deck.
But by the time you get to it, you're usually destroying 3 to 5 cards. This you can just play on turn 8. If you're, I think earlier we were discussing maybe there could be a Mechathune Warlock that would do this.
It's the first place my brain went. The thing is that you have to make sure that you have drawn Mechathune and you have drawn at least
your combo pieces, basically.
Yeah, you need your combo pieces before you do this. There's going to be those games where you draw your Void Contract before you draw your combo pieces. But I'm just saying it's the first place my brain went.
Yeah. It's also really interesting because it's this card and what it does is going to be different in different points of the game because it says destroy half of each player's deck, not destroy 15 cards. So as the decks get smaller, the impact of this is also smaller. So you could be destroying 10 cards, you could be destroying 3 cards, and like the usefulness of this card is going to go away the later the game goes, much like the Devourer.
Yeah, which makes me think that much like Rin, it's going to be the most consistent against other control decks. So I think
to try to take away their tools. Like even if you only burn 2 or 3 cards, you're taking away potentially their win condition or their ability to deal with your win condition.
Right, because we all on Angry Chicken live to crap on Gnome Feratu.
Obviously.
Because Gnome Feratu, like, you think you're so clever. Oh, you're burning the top card in my library. Oh, sometimes you get that Kingsbane and you feel like a god.
Yeah.
But
or Shutterwalk.
That could have just been a game where, well, okay, Bill, so they have ways to draw. Kingsbane's a bad example, but Shutterwalk is a good example because most people don't have targeted ways to draw, like guarantee they're going to draw Shutterwalk. It's just like, well, this was just a game where Shutterwalk was on the bottom of my library. Unless it goes to all, like you go
all
to
the way to fatigue, yeah.
Getting rid of one card is kind of irrelevant. And even in this scenario, unless it's the game's going to go long, it's arguable the effect or how strong it is to get rid of half of a deck.
Yeah, and I think that this might be the kind of card that we see a lot of tournament play just for that reason, where or you're targeting a specific deck or a specific lineup. So if you really want to drill down and target control lineups, Void Contract is probably a tech card that is going to make it into your tournament deck. But if you're playing on ladder, I mean, this against aggro is total trash. Like you would never, what's the point?
Yeah, kind of. I mean,
ladder is
rogues
too volatile.
right now. Some rogues are intentionally just getting rid of the rest of their deck.
Exactly, and winning games doing it. Like Myra's Unstable Element is incredibly powerful in a lot of matchups for Rogue because they know if the game gets to turn 6 or 7, they are never going to win. So on turn 5, they draw the rest of their deck and then get rid of it, and they are probably going to lose anyway, so they don't care about fatigue, and they just try to find those couple of Eviscerates or the Leroys and the Cold Bloods and try to kill your face.
There's my Leroy.
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Okay, so now I win. Yeah, and I wasn't going to win this game anyways, so it's fine. So yeah, I think that this is feels very tech cardy to me and feels very tournament oriented, I think.
I just think it's wildly interesting.
It is. It's very interesting.
I really don't know how effective it's going to be, if it's going to see play. But I think it's one of the most interesting cards that they revealed at BlizzCon. And then I think the last card we both want to highlight is Hexlord Malakras. This is the Mage Legendary. It costs 8 mana to play, has 5 attack, it has 5 health. But the most interesting on this card is its battle cry, because its battle cry reads, add a copy of your opening hand to your hand, except this card.
Which is good, because that means you can't get like infinite value. Like if you mulligan for this and have it in your opening hand.
This card would be so busted
it
if
would
you
be
got a copy of it.
Super busted. So
like, yep, here's my Frostbolt's back. Here's my, I don't know, Kieran Tor Mage. I don't know. What are you keeping nowadays, mages? I'm sorry, you probably don't exist, because Mana Worm is dead.
Yeah, poor Mana Worm.
I'm just saying we're bourbon.
But yeah, so no, this is really, really interesting because it's a new kind of hand tracking and a new kind of thinking about the game and memory and thing that you have to employ to make this work, because you have to remember exactly what you had in your opening hand.
Do you? Or is it just good?
Do you just think
to
it's
get a crap ton of cards? I mean, it's not card draw, but it's massive card generation.
It is. So in your opening hand, depending on, I guess you get the coin back again if you had the coin.
If you had the coin, yeah.
So I mean, you're looking at 4 cards that you get back. Like huzzah!
8 mana
is your opening hand. I wonder, and I don't think they clarified. Does that count like your first card draw, or is that like your natural draw in the start of your first turn, or no?
I didn't consider that, but I think it's good regardless. I think whichever way they go,
you're right, yeah,
it's still very good because card generation has already been proven to be very good in Mage. Mages generate cards all the time,
and they generate random cards all the time,
through
and
Discover,
or
sometimes
not even
through
Discover. Yeah, sometimes just as random effects, and it's still helpful to them. These cards still see play. So
and these are the
I think you might be right.
These are the conversations we've had over the history of the Angry Chicken with card generation, especially when it started happening with things like Unstable Portal way back in the day. Now, God, it feels like another lifetime since that card, but also the advent of Discover. And when it first came out, we were like, you're not getting a card that you put in your deck on purpose. How good could that be? It turns out very, very good, because it's just a card you wouldn't have had otherwise. And then also, God, it's just so interesting because suddenly cards you would never put in your deck on purpose still affect the game.
Right. And mage cards have just been kind of historically pretty powerful, especially mage spells.
Exactly.
So
and priests have already love generating copies of cards they put in their deck.
Very, very true. So yeah, I think you might be right that this card just feels straight up good because of just playing the value game. And as long as there is still a value game to be played, then like, I mean, obviously this doesn't go in any kind of aggressive tempo, burn your face mage deck, but anything that might potentially be going to turn 8 to 10, then it seems like this would be a good thing to have. And I do still think that there might be some sort of new mulligan strategy. Like if I know that I have Malakras in my deck, then am I going to be keeping a card that I want another copy of?
Well, I would say that this card is interesting. That's not a wrong line of thinking at all. I can't think of an example right now. But
yeah, I'm thinking like some weird like super control, like again, going to
combo
fatigue
mage. Like
or
if
combo.
If
Yeah,
a combo mage comes up, I don't know what the combo would be, but if at any point a combo mage becomes a thing, a lot of combo decks will keep the linchpin of their combo in their opening hand, no matter how expensive it is.
Yes.
Because it's just that important. So could you imagine keeping the linchpin of your combo and then also getting a second copy of it when you play Hexlord Malakras?
As long as your combo doesn't hinge around that, like hinge around having
you have to
it
have two copies
in your opening hand or whatever.
I think that's two edge case.
Because but what a cool deck that would be, though.
Yeah,
you would literally know on turn 1 if you'd won or lost based on whether or not you got like the legendary you needed in your opening hand.
If it was true, it's like, oh, there's a sick ass combo that wins me the game if I can generate a copy of this other, like, I guess it would have to be a legendary would be the linchpin of that.
Yeah, legendary
combo.
would be it, unless you had some sort of thing like think Molten Reflection, Sorcerer's Apprentice, where having like 4 or 6 of them are good. Right. Then you might want to like clone a non-legendary. But
I guess my point is I'm coming out of BlizzCon with my thought is like most of these cards I think are up in the air whether they're going to be good or not, except for Hexlord Malakras and Spirit of the Shark. I think those 2 cards are just amazing.
Yeah, I agree. I think that they're both very powerful. I think that this set in general seems a little bit calmer than third sets that we've seen in the past. But I think that that's a good thing. There's powerful effects and there's complicated cards, and they're going to be around less time than everything else that we got this year.
I think this year overall, we've seen significantly lower powered sets.
Yeah.
So this is in line with 2018 Hearthstone as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And overall, I mean, I know that we've had, well, actually, I guess most of the problem cards, obviously, I'm thinking about Druid and Spreading Plague, but most of that is stuff that came out of 2017, not 2018. Technically, they are still standard viable because we haven't had our rotation into the year of the unicorn yet, but I can
still
dream.
On that.
I can dream.
Dufflin is never letting that go.
Never, ever.
It's never going to happen. She's going to keep calling Year of the Unicorn until
it happens, and I'm just right.
Until Angry Chicken Retiree Edition. I'll finally get you and Dills to move to Florida, and we'll all do it while drinking our prune juice.
I love it. I love it.
Shuffleboard.
And I still won't have Year of the Unicorn. And we'll be on Year of the not even existing in WoW creatures yet. And it's just, I still won't even get, not even a Corsair. We're not even going to have Year of the Corsair.
Well, those are definitely
Corsair,
so those are the cards we wanted to make sure and highlight for this episode. We weren't going to go card by card. I wanted to give you just kind of our overall take.
Yeah. Well, and because at some point we are going to go card by card. So this.
Oh yeah, with Dills.
With Dills, exactly.
Yeah,
we miss Dills.
Yeah, I wish he was here. So Dills, we miss you. And come to BlizzCon, damn it.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much to those of you supporting us on Patreon over at patreon.com/TAC. So if you like the show, you want to support us, you want to see us travel to more events, BlizzCon is, we got to do it. But I would love to do more of these in person because it's rad. How often do we get to sit here with glasses of bourbon in person, side by side? And if you're not watching the video, getting to see Jocelyn and us in the same room, it doesn't happen. So go watch it, youtube.com/AMOTV. But more of that. So head on over to patreon.com/TAC. Follow Dills at Willie Dills. Is he still at Willie Dills SF on Twitter? I think he's just
never
at Willie
been
Dills.
Willie Dills SF on Twitter.
Oh, that used to be his Twitch.
Yes.
Sorry.
He's at Willie Dills in all the places.
At Willie Dills. Yeah, it's still every now and then I have to double think about that. Is double think a thing?
It is now.
This episode brought to you by bourbon. But yeah, are we out of time? Oh, then keep it going. Sorry. because I'm not done with the outro. 3 minutes. If anyone doesn't know, we're shooting this on DSLR, which only shoots in 20-minute segments. So that's fun.
It's been really fun because we've literally been like stopping every 20 minutes and refilling our bourbons.
It actually has worked out perfectly.
It's amazing.
It is good. It's good. So anyways, Joss Plays on Twitter.
Yes, Joss Plays on Twitter and Twitch.
Garrett Art on Twitter. And so go follow us all of those places. Hope you enjoyed this. If we saw you at BlizzCon, thanks for coming out and saying hi. Hope you enjoyed BlizzCon, everybody. We'll be back in a week's time with a regular, normal, sadly over Skype and not in person, drinking bourbon together.
We can still drink bourbon.
We can
I like
still,
this.
We can still drink
I
bourbon.
like the bourbon chicken.
We're now Kentucky chickens. That's what we are.
Ooh, I like it.
I do too. So with that in mind, first off, cheers.
Cheers.
Finish it.
I almost drank to my mic. We did it.
Job done.
Job done.
Job's done.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.